Hey guys, and welcome back to another marvelous video. If you're into mythology, whether it's Greek, Roman, or Celtic, you're in for a treat today. And even if the myths aren't usually your thing, this story might just change your mind. Think about this. What if a queen didn't just kidnap kids, but actually ate them? Sounds wild, right? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. Meet Lamia, a queen turned demoness with a story that's both heartbreaking and downright terrifying. After hearing about her, you might never look at kids' bedtime stories the same way again. So who is Lamia? And how did she go from royalty to a literal nightmare? Stick around to find out. But before we jump in, just a quick favor. If you enjoy our content, hit that subscribe button. It's a small click for you, but it makes a big difference for us. Thanks, and let's get started. The origins of Lamia. What is her connection to Zeus? There have been several variations of Lamia's life story since she is described differently in different tales. Some stories have depicted her as a monster who is sent by the angry gods to punish mankind and teach them a lesson. Eventually, some stories even depicted her transformation from one single monster to several child-devouring spirits who are known as Lamiae or Lamias, although there are differing pronunciations. Although this might seem confusing, we'll look at the earliest and most famous origin of Lamia, which comes from several Greek sources. In Greek mythology, it's widely believed that Lamia used to be a princess and eventually the queen of Libya. She's the daughter of King Belus of Egypt and Libya. She was quite famous in her time and highly appreciated for her beauty, kindness, and love of nature. Several sources have mentioned that her beauty and grace were unparalleled. Now, due to this, she got the attention of Zeus, and as we all know, the moment Zeus interacts with a mortal, he paves the way for blessings as well as for curses. Attracted to her beauty, Zeus started to pursue Lamia endlessly and was adamant to have her for himself. He would shower her with pleasantries and gifts, but for some time, Lamia resisted because of her respect for her people and family. Eventually, her walls came down, and she found herself reciprocating Zeus's love. They both soon became lovers, but kept their relationship hidden from the eyes of other mortals. From mortal queen to demoness. Well, that's not where Lamia's story ends. There was one god who was not happy with the union and affair between Zeus and Lamia. Do you want to take any guesses? If you're thinking of the goddess of childbirth, family, and marriage, then you are right. Hera felt betrayed by her husband Zeus and was extremely jealous of Lamia due to her beauty and her ability to captivate her husband. It's common knowledge that Hera is very well known for her vengeful tactics, so she decided to take her revenge. In order to make Lamia suffer, Hera decided to kill off the children she bore with Zeus by kidnapping them, or by making Lamia kill them herself. Eventually, Lamia started to go insane due to all the grief and loneliness. This drove her to start stealing or killing children from women who were more fortunate than her. As a result of this, Lamia also became disfigured, and her beauty was stolen away from her, turning her into a disfigured monster. The next part of Lamia's story has a few different versions. So in one of them, it's said that Hera didn't just stop at killing her kids to punish her, but in fact took her ability to fall asleep. And then Zeus felt pity, so he granted Lamia the power to pluck out her own eyes and keep them in a box so that her eternally awake state could become more bearable. But in a different source, it's said that Hera herself plucked out Lamia's eyes and threw them away somewhere in the mountains. There's yet another source that gives us a rather similar but twisted story of Lamia. An ancient Greek historian from Sicily, who's known as Diodorus of Sicily, gave us a rationalized origin. He presented us with the story that Lamia was once a Libyan queen who gave birth to many children. Unfortunately, all her kids died for unknown reasons. So, similar to the famous version, this incident drove Lamia to the edge of madness. As a result, she ordered her soldiers to kidnap and murder the babies of all the mothers in her kingdom. Eventually, Lamia's acts of cruelty led to her beauty fading away, which turned her into a monster. So Diodorus says that as this story grew popular, it inspired the tale of the monster known as Lamia. Lamia in Greek folklore and beyond. The creature known as Lamia has been part of several stories, and the list doesn't just stop at Greek mythology. Throughout the course of history, there have also been several other creatures who have taken inspiration from Lamia. In fact, in several literary texts, it's been said that a creature that looks and behaves just like Lamia has been given a different name. Now, let us find out what these other stories are that involve Lamia. There's one story that involves the family of King Croctopus, octopus of Argos. Apparently, her daughter, Samantha, had a relationship with the god Apollo. They even had a child together, but the kid unfortunately died. It was later discovered that she was involved with other men and was held accountable for adultery. So, in order to punish her, Apollo sent the child-eating monster known as a Lamia to Argos. Lamia also has another name, which was given to her by a Greek geographer known as Pausanias. He called her Pini, which basically means punishment. Another speculation about Lamia's myth is that some scholars believe she might have been inspired by a female demon in Mesopotamian lore. This creature's name is Lamashtu. It sounds a little too similar to Lamia, right? Lamashtu also operated quite similarly to Lamia, since she also used to abduct children. She's described as having the head of a lion and the naked body of a woman, where a pig and a dog are suckling at her breasts and the feet of a bird of prey. There are times when she's also shown as standing on a donkey with a snake in her hands. Although they don't share any similarities physically, I think in other aspects they're a little too similar for it just to be a coincidence. There's another contrary origin of Lamia, which basically depicts her as the daughter of the sea god Poseidon. In this story, her mother is unknown, but it's suspected that perhaps the goddess of sorcery, Hecate, or the goddess who has a special connection to sea monsters, Ceto, could be her mother. A different reference regarding Lamia is given by Aristophanes, where he talks about Lamia's testicles. It basically refers to Lamia's scent as a monster and says that it's one of the most defining features of a monster, especially one of Libyan origin. With such a horrible scent, humans are able to track monsters like Lamia and find their lair. The typical story of Lamia found in ancient Greek was also used to scare children. She had become something like a boogeyman who was used by the parents as a threat. In fact, later on, even young men were threatened by the version of Lamia where she seduces innocent men. She was also mentioned in the Vulgate, which is a 4th century translation of the Bible. Here, Lamia has been mentioned as a translation of Lilith from the Hebrew Bible. It would kind of make sense because Lilith has been known as the mother of all monsters, and even Lamia has been known to transform into several child-devouring demons. In other modern interpretations of this creature, there have been times when the term Lamia has been used to signify different things for philosophers. Around the 1400s, a Renaissance writer known as Angelo Poliziano wrote a text titled Lamia. Through this philosophical work, he was basically talking about his opponents who indulge in philosophy without proper wit or knowledge. This served as a reference to another work titled De Curiositate, which was written by Plutarch. In this work, the Greek writer used the term Lamia to talk about meddlesome busybodies. So around this century, this term was most commonly used to refer to hypocritical scholars. Later on, from the mid-15th century to the 16th century, the Lamia were exclusively considered to be witches. I guess they did a deep dive into history to come to that conclusion. Characteristics and abilities of Lamia. One of the most well-known sources that's widely used when describing Lamia comes from an epic poem, Thebaid, which was written by Statius. Here, her figure is described as having the face and the breasts of a woman, but her lower body is that of a snake. In fact, it says a snake is also seen rising from her head. Several Greek writers have described this part woman and part snake form of Lamia as absolutely grotesque and evil, but there are also writers who have praised this form by saying that her scales look like beautiful and precious gems, and she appears graceful. In other sources, writers have not spoken about Lamia being part snake at all. Instead of that, they've described her face as having lost all traces of beauty. Due to her sudden killing spree and devastated mental state, her face became entirely disfigured, so much so that she had become unrecognizable as a queen. There are also variations in which Zeus did not give her the ability to remove her own eyes, and she gained them herself. The eyeless form is also one of her monstrous figures. It's also believed that one of her favorite activities, apart from killing babies, is seducing men. She does this when she's in her part woman and part snake form, since her upper body is that of a gorgeous woman. Apart from all these descriptions, there exists another one that came to us in the 1800s. One of the most famous romantic poets, John Keats, wrote a poem about Lamia as one of the most beautiful creatures. features. In this poem, he described her as having a Gordian shape that is of a dazzling hue. She also has vermilion spots, including green, golden, and blue. When he talks about her serpent form, he says that she has stripes like a zebra and is freckled like a pard. Her eyes are like that of a peacock, and when she breathes, the entire atmosphere becomes brighter and lustrous. He also describes the side of her snake form, which appears like a rainbow. He calls her a lady elf and a demon's mistress. The sheer beauty with which Keats describes her both human and snake form will definitely make you fall in love with her. Honestly, after that, I think all other descriptions don't stand a chance in front of his version. While writing such a vivid description of Lamia, Keats borrowed references from Burton's work known as The Anatomy of Melancholy. Now, since she is part snake, there are a few versions of her stories in which it's said that she can shapeshift, since she sheds off her snake skin. This ability comes in handy when she's trying to seduce men, since it allows her to appear in the form of a gorgeous woman. And we can all guess what happens once she succeeds in getting herself a man. Lamia obviously devours them. Another fascinating ability that she possesses is that of being able to predict the future. This power of prophecy is a little contradictory, since in some versions it's said that she sees the future in her dreams, but here it gave her the curse of never being able to fall asleep. So in some stories, it's believed that she detaches her spirit from her physical body to find out men's secrets, which helps her in predicting the future. Lastly, Lamia has another exceptional ability of witchcraft. This isn't seen in all of her versions, but in some storylines, she has the power to perform enchantments through which she can make a man's brain go foggy so that he doesn't suspect her devious ways. She can also make women invisible, and sometimes she's also seen brewing potions to make these things happen. This ability definitely makes her seem like a rather cool monster. Marvelous verdict. Well guys, with that said, we've come to the end of yet another marvelous video. I never imagined such a scary monster could be in the pockets of the gods. Imagine, if anyone ever annoys a god, they can just deploy the Lamia, or if other versions are kept in mind, then perhaps Lamias. After all, why would gods want to do the dirty work if they have someone doing it for them, right? Lamia is definitely one of the most complicated characters in the Greek mythology. She never sets out to hurt anyone. In fact, everyone in her kingdom admired her for being kind and compassionate, but she followed her heart, and unfortunately, she crossed the wrong god. If anything, Lamia's story is a testament that you should never underestimate Hera and her powers. So, what are some of the things that you loved about this Greek myth character? Is there any particular quality about Lamia that you like the most? Did she terrify you as much as she terrified me? And what other beings or creatures from Greek mythology do you want us to explore? Let us know all about it in the comments down below. And if you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. It means the world to us when you help us grow. Until next time, guys, it's goodbye. Have a good one.